We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live.
George Kambosos defeats the takeover. He takes over Teofimo in the takeover. He says he's willing to face Devin Haney. There's one small caveat. Devin Haney has to fight him in the A, not Atlanta, but Australia. We're going to talk about that in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way you made it. You arrived at the content. Reach one, teach one. I encourage all you guys, if you enjoy the content, you get some information, some perspective from this video, throw a like on the video. It's quick, painless, free, and it takes a few seconds of your time. Greatly appreciate it. Let's talk about it. George Kambosos, his name has been ringing bells. He defeated Teofimo Lopez over the weekend and is being billed as an upset. Now, I'm going to say this again because I'm doing an unpack. We unpack, coming to you live. In case you're new to my channel, Unpack, I dive deep and talk about some of the hottest trending topics in the world of boxing. But I really take my time with these videos, try to give you guys some good perspective and analytical things to think about. In my opinion, I stated this on the past live stream. This fight with Teofimo, I picked Kambosos, and it's not an upset to me. If you're talking about sports book and all that, yeah, it's an upset because people didn't know enough about Kambosos, so people wagered their money on Teofimo, who talked a lot, you know, and beat Lomachenko, so he had the better name. But I tell you guys in boxing all of the time, if you ever watch my channel, styles make fights. It's that simple. Styles make fights. Also, you have to factor, in addition to styles, you got to look at just the different variables that you know about. Teofimo, George Kambosos said that he felt that Teofimo was a guy that had nervous energy. And if you listen to Teofimo, he was doing a lot of this and, you know, trying very hard to almost sell the fight, which wasn't needed. It's not like this fight was on pay-per-view, right? So anyway, long story short, he gets past Teofimo. You see Teofimo's face look really a bloody mess. Teofimo, in my opinion, did not look good. He showed a bit of resolve in round 9 and 10, but those were the only real rounds where Teofimo, you could say, he shined. At the end, they said it was a split decision win, which to me is blasphemous. This was not a hard fight to score. If you look at the fight, you are objectively, like, turn off the commentary. You don't need to listen to what they're saying on DAZN or whatever. But if you listen to your first mind, and if you just watch the fight, it's not really a hard fight to score. The rounds were pretty conclusive or whatever. Teofimo, his biggest issue was he must have clearly underestimated and disrespected Kambosos. He thought it was sweet, and he came out like he was a man on a mission and he was just going to steamroll him. And Kambosos had a great strategy and poise, and the rest is history. So Teofimo, he also got dropped in this fight. It just wasn't his night. So I'm happy. I'm really happy for Kambosos because if you watch my channel, I'm a huge fan of underdog stories. I've always told you that. Just in life, it's good to see. It's good to see. It shakes up the division as far as boxing. And, you know, Teofimo had this humbling coming, in my honest opinion. Teofimo Lopez, he just came out like, try to ambush him, and didn't work out for him. Now, as far as future fights, George Kambosos says he's willing to fight Devin Haney, but he's stating it has to be in Australia. He's saying, yo, I fought on the road. I fought Teofimo in his backyard. So look at his face. Look at his face when he dropped Teo. Look at his face. He's like, yeah. Then he went to the neutral corner. So anyway, he said, I took the hard road. And you got to give him a lot of credit, because this whole purse bid, Teofimo said he's the $1 million man and he's not going to fight for less than $5 million. And it went to purse bid. There was a whole fiasco with Triller, and then they end up opting out and defaulting and not actually putting on the fight. Then the second runner-up bid, Eddie Hearn and DAZN, they end up putting on the fight, and it was a fun fight. It was a very fun fight. So I think George Kambosos deserves a big name. He definitely deserves a big name. He has all this hardware now from beating Teofimo, and he beat him decisively. So very heroic performance. As far as fighting Devin Haney in Australia, Eddie Hearn, I think, has entertained this. Devin Haney looks like he's in crazy shape too. I don't want to spend too much time, because I don't like to disrespect reality, and Devin Haney has an opponent, Joseph Jojo Diaz. I think Haney wins the fight, right? That's my prediction. I think Haney wins, but there could be challenges. Jojo Diaz is game. I just think Devin Haney is superior, sharper. He's definitely taller. They did the grand arrivals or whatnot in Vegas, things like that. So I'm rocking with Devin Haney to secure that. But I still think it's a disrespect. A lot of people, they start overly making too many plans and having conversations that we really can't have until business is completed, right? It's like a retail store, and they haven't even got past Halloween or Thanksgiving, and they're already not worried about setting up the stuff for Halloween in October, and they're already putting up Christmas stuff. It's like, let's get through one holiday first before we move on to the next. And that's the same thing in this boxing world. I think Devin Haney Kambosos is a fight that is realistic. I think Devin Haney wants to fight. Devin Haney has said he wants to fight. As far as him fighting in Australia, I don't know. Eddie Hearn made a statement, said he wants to fight. I think he said New York, Vegas, or Sydney, Australia. So it is definitely a possibility. I don't know. I just don't know. It's really a fight that should happen based on the fact that it would really resolve the undisputed scenario. That's what I really like about it. The WBC, they've created they've wreaked havoc in the weight classes. Too many belts. At one point, Teofimo was a champion. Devin Haney is a WBC champion, and Ryan Garcia was a champion. Why do you need 3 champions at lightweight? And then one's a special franchise champion that you just made for Canelo, and then you said it was non-transferable, and then you changed the rule. It's just a mess. It's a mess. So Devin Haney, and if he gets past Joseph Jojo Diaz versus Kambosos, one, it's a great fight, and it's a great resume name for Devin Haney, and it's a great resume name for Kambosos. So I really like the fight, and it's gonna make Teofimo look bad. That's the other thing we have to be honest with and assess, is if Kambosos, wherever the fight happens, because listen, I know Kambosos at the moment, he's saying, I want to fight in Australia. I want to fight in Australia. And I get that. He feels like he's earned that. And I'm not saying you have to rule out Australia, but you never know with whatever platform the fight happens on. You have to look at the money, the logistics, what does the network or platform want, etc. So money talks. We've seen Andy Ruiz, after he beat Anthony Joshua, he said he wanted to fight in LA or in Cali or in Vegas, New York, where the first fight happened, or even Mexico. But as you guys know, the second Anthony Joshua, meet with me, the second Anthony Joshua fight happened in Saudi Arabia. So it doesn't always work like that. Ruiz wanted Mexico, LA, where he's from, you know, the SoCal area, or even New York where the first fight happened. But the logistics, they seemed fit to, they said they had a crazy bag in Saudi Arabia, so that's where the fight took place. So I think it's going to be really a numbers game. First of all, Devin Haney, like I said, has to get past Joseph Jojo Diaz, and he's not a pushover. That's not a guy you should overlook. And I think a lot of people in boxing, I'm not blaming Devin Haney, because Devin Haney, he said his focus is on Jojo Diaz. So credit to him for his level of maturity. I'm talking about boxing fans. Everybody wants to entertain and thoroughly entertain these conversations, but isn't this exactly what got Teofimo Lopez in trouble? Teofimo was shaking hands with Bill Haney and saying he was going to fight Devin Haney finally after the Kambosos fight, this, that, and the third, and he was going to knock him out. But now we don't even know what the future holds for Devin Haney and a Teofimo, because Teofimo didn't even get past the underdog, George Kambosos, and he lost all his belts. Now his pops is saying we don't need no rematch. We moving up to 140, and we should have never fought on DAZN. We should have been with Top Rank, who loves us, and we're moving up to 140. So Devin Haney's currently at 135. So I don't know what the deal is with Devin Haney and Teofimo, but if I had to take an educated guess, it doesn't really look likely for next, seeing how Teofimo lost in upset fashion to Kambosos. So I don't want the same mistakes boxing to keep making them, where you start overlooking your current opponent and then you start looking past that. Floyd Mayweather told you look past your opponent too much, and then that's the person that upsets you. So Devin Haney, he's been smart about it. Again, I think it's a great fight if Kambosos and Devin Haney finally happen. However, there's a big however. There's other people that want to fight Kambosos. Listen, the sky is the limit for Kambosos right now, for Kambosos to get a big name, because one, this is no disrespect to George Kambosos, but Kambosos, there was a bit of vulnerability shown, namely in the 9th and the 10th round. So he got dropped. Other fighters not named Teofimo are going to look at Kambosos as food. You know, I don't think even with the Teofimo win, and I thought he looked good in the fight, I don't think everyone is going to be as sold as some of the bigger names in terms of Kambosos being a top threat, even though he beat Teofimo fair and square. Like the reputation that Gervonta has, the reputation that Shakur Stevenson has, the reputation that Devin Haney and Lomachenko have, I think that still is a bit higher, even though George Kambosos, he dominated Teofimo. Because some people are going to still say and suggest, since it's only one performance, they're going to suggest that Teofimo underestimated him. He was weight drained. He was dehydrated, long layoff, you know, things like that. So I still think there's more for George Kambosos to prove in the public's eye, even though he has all the hardware. But there's a lot of different options for him right now. Devin Haney is a great one because, as I said earlier, we unpacked. It solves finally this mystique about who the franchise champion versus, you know what I mean? The franchise champion versus the undisputed and all that from the WBC. The mess, basically the mess that the WBC created, will finally have closure if Devin Haney fights. As far as Australia, I can't really say. I'm not Devin Haney's promoter. The two people you see on the screen, they would have to ultimately make that call along with Devin Haney. Eddie Hearn, he'll probably go where the money is. So Eddie Hearn, you know, he might make it in Australia if logistically that makes the most sense. Devin Haney, he seems like a spirited fighter, so he might be good with fighting in Australia. I do think fighting in Australia could be a bit dangerous because Australia, they don't get too many fights. We all know that, in terms of high profile fight, not like Tim Tszyu versus Jeff Horn or something like that. I'm talking about like high profile fights involving like an American fighter. And last time I think about an Australian fighter that fought in Australia against a name known guy with a lot of name recognition in America from the Philippines. It was Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn. And in that particular fight, I thought Pacquiao got robbed. So it wasn't really a fair outcome. I thought Pacquiao did enough to win the fight. There were moments where Pacquiao looked hurt and looked vulnerable, and it was a good fight. But I still think Pacquiao decidedly won. And the judges all had it against, I'm pretty sure all the judges had it against Pacquiao. So, it's still a dangerous fight because some people question Devin Haney's power, and if you're fighting a guy in his backyard and all the oohs and ahs, or some of them are coming from the other guy, and if you can't hurt him, I think people complain about Devin Haney's power and it's overstated. I do think he has some snap on his punches, you know what I mean? But at the best, it's debatable. Some people debate how much power he has and, how much sweet science, things like that. But it's always that gamble you fighting in somebody's backyard. If it does go to the scorecards, how are they going to see it? How the judge is going to see it. So I don't really know. But the other fight that's really there for outside of Devin Haney that I see, I know Ryan Garcia. I'm not going to spend too much time on Ryan Garcia because I don't think that it's fair that Ryan Garcia can play his career how he's played his career recently. And ironically enough, he said that he doesn't respect Devin Haney's career because Devin Haney played his career politically. This is what Ryan Garcia said. But look at Ryan Garcia's career. He fought in January, and then he stated he was fighting from Devin Haney to Manny Pacquiao to Gervonta Davis to Javier Fortuna to Joseph Jojo Diaz. And literally, out of all those fights I just named, none of them actually came off this year. And then Javier Fortuna ended up losing to the guy Devin Haney's about to fight. So it's really a bad look for Ryan Garcia because how is it this goes to show you the problems we have in the sport of boxing. How is it, I just thought of this as I'm recording this video. How is it that Joseph Jojo Diaz wasn't even of the 135-pound weight class, moves up and ends up fighting the guy that Ryan Garcia said he was going to fight, Javier Fortuna, a boogeyman in the weight class, and beats him and looks good in that fight. Jojo Diaz, shout out to him for that. He looks good and beats Javier Fortuna. And then Ryan Garcia is supposed to fight Jojo Diaz, the victor. Golden Boy has it all set up. And then Ryan pulls out of that fight, says his hand is messed up and he's not fighting for the rest of the year. And then now, as a result, the pressure was on Jojo Diaz to stay active and do the next best thing if you're not going to get the Ryan Garcia fight and fight for a title against Devin Haney. And that's exactly what's happening. So it goes to show you that Golden Boy, in my opinion, Golden Boy, they're protecting Ryan Garcia because at the end of the day, you got Joseph Jojo Diaz and he wasn't even in the lightweight category, moves up and he fights both Javier Fortuna and Devin Haney in 1 year. So it just shows you he's about it. He's about it. He's fighting Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia was Devin Haney's mandatory before Jojo Diaz really was even in the weight class or even came to the picture. So these fights could have been made for Devin Haney, but we know what the real problem was. Oh, he's grilling him. But we know what the real problem is in terms of trying to make it. If fighters want to fight and their promoters and team want to fight, the fight can be made. Eddie Hearn, he pulled strings and matched the pay, and then Jojo had nowhere to really go because Ryan pulled out, and it would have looked extremely bad. And Golden Boy, it would be wrong for them to not allow Jojo Diaz to make this type of money and a shot at a title. So they were really pressured into making the fight, So it is what it is. But it just goes to show you, this picture that you're looking at on the screen, this could have been Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney and Eddie Hearn with Oscar De La Hoya on the side. But they're not allowing Ryan Garcia to take these types of fights. It's very apparent. So anyway, to wrap up what I'm saying about Ryan Garcia, I do not think it's fair that Ryan should be last in line, because all the big claim to fame is Instagram followers. And that doesn't necessarily translate to pay-per-view stardom or anything like that, and ticket sales and live gates, because we don't even know if those are all real followers or, you know, if they're 10-year-olds, you know what I mean? We don't know. And Ryan has been too inactive. He hasn't fought since January, Luke Campbell, where he got dropped, and then he came back to stop Luke Campbell. And today is December. It's the first day of December. We're about to be in January again. So Ryan Garcia, by the time he comes back, he will have been out of the ring over an hour, or excuse me, over a year. So he doesn't deserve to get to fight like any of these names just because he's Ryan Garcia and he got 8 million followers. Come on, we can't do like that. So George Kambosos, I do believe he deserves a big fight. But outside of Devin Haney, if that undisputed fight doesn't happen to solve that undisputed puzzle, the other fight is boom. You guys see it right there. And I wouldn't even be mad. Now again, Devin Haney and Tank are fighting back-to-back days. So Devin Haney can't overlook Joseph Jojo Diaz, and Tank can't overlook the Mexican Mike Tyson, Isaac Cruz. And he looks very sharp right here. He looked very sharp. I expect Devin Haney to win, and I expect Gervonta Davis to win. But seeing is believing. This weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we'll get that conclusively. And then I think George Kambosos ultimately should fight one of these guys, either Tank Davis or Devin Haney. We unpack. My reason being is this. Tank Davis, he's just too lit. He's too popular. He's too lit. I think he got secondary belts in 135 and 140. So for Kambosos to fight that, he'll make a lot of money. That'll be a big fight. Mayweather Promotions and Kambosos. And then for Devin Haney, that's also a very good fight, and it will solve the undisputed puzzle. So you can't get mad if Kambosos were to fight against a guy like Tank Davis either, because Tank Davis is a beast, and he's the guy with the most buzz, making the most money. Look at this dip, you know what I mean? So those are my preferred choices for Kambosos. I don't think Ryan Garcia should even be in the equation, because he's been sitting on the sidelines, and I know he called him out and said, "Oh, good job, Kambosos. I want you next. You could be my first fight." But how do you have all these failed fights from Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney and Manny Pacquiao and Javier Fortuna and Jojo Diaz, and these guys are all staying active? Kambosos going in Tio's backyard fighting him. Tank was supposed to fight Rolly, a dangerous option. Rolly had some stuff outside of boxing that prevented him from fighting, and he had to withdraw. Now he's fighting another dangerous person. Devin Haney's fighting a dangerous Joseph Jojo Diaz, who looked good, versus Javier Fortuna. And then Ryan Garcia just jump in the mix, and he's just been on the sideline. It's not fair. Everybody, oof. It's not fair that everyone else gets to, take punches and get their brains battered in and take the risk. Tank fighting at 140. Devin Haney, he fighting back-to-back good Golden Boy fighters, Jorge Linares and then Jojo Diaz. And then Ryan Garcia gets to skip in line. I don't think that's right. So I think it should be Tank, just because he's such a big name, and it'll be a huge event, and there'll just be a big fight. I don't know if Tank would go to Australia though, because he's the A side, and I don't think Mayweather would take that. I don't know if Mayweather Promotions would want Tank to take an away game if they don't have to, but money talks. So maybe if the money's right, possibly they would do it. I don't know. But Tank's a money fight. Tank's the biggest money fight for Kambosos. And Devin Haney. Now, the reason I left out Teofimo rematch is because it didn't really sound like Teofimo's team wanted the rematch, to be honest. They're talking about, oh, we don't need the rematch and we didn't lose and the whole world knows we didn't lose to Kambosos and we're moving to 140. So, you know, I'm not really considering that. I know Shakur Stevenson is another name that said he wanted to fight, but he's not really in the division. And I don't know if Top Rank would be able to pull that off. You know, I don't know if because Shakur, he's a very skilled dude, very skilled fighter. But to me, that makes less sense than Tank Davis, which is the money fight. And damn, he looked crispy. It made less sense than Tank, the money fight. And then it makes less sense than Devin Haney, a skilled, great, combative fight for all of the marbles. And then you could really say if you beat Devin Haney, or if Devin Haney beats Kambosos, that person can really say they undisputed for real, not with like the WBC's help and, you know, cap like T.O. was doing, saying he's undisputed. So that, hopefully I explain in good detail why I like the fights that I like. And it's two guys for Kambosos. You know, I really don't mind the Teofimo rematch, but again, I don't know if Teofimo wants that. He's talking about moving up. So let me know how I did in this video. We unpack. Subscribe to the channel. Use some of my affiliate links. The holidays are right around the corner. Get the Hibernation headphones. You need that extra bass. You need a holiday gift. Consider that. Link in the description. Let me know what you want for Kambosos. Do you think Tank would go to Australia? Do you think Devin Haney would go to Australia? Because that's what Kambosos says he prefers. But again, money talks and talking is talking. We'll see. Let me know what's next. And do you think either Tank Davis or Devin Haney get upset over the weekend? Let me know your fight predictions, all that good stuff. We unpack. And I'm out.
The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.